My hands trembled as I emptied my pill organizer onto my desk, heart pounding. Something wasn't right. The small white tablets looked different, slightly larger, more powdery. After taking them for 6 years, I knew exactly how my heart medication should look. Sandra, I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. Have you seen my prescription bottle? My stepmother appeared in the doorway, perfectly manicured and wearing her usual condescending smile. Oh, I reorganized your medications yesterday. You really shouldn't leave them scattered everywhere. I'm Emily Chen, 28, and I've lived with a rare heart condition since I was diagnosed at 22. The medication I take twice daily keeps my heart rhythm stable and quite literally keeps me alive. Sandra married my dad 2 years ago, and since then, she's made it her mission to fix everything about me, including what she calls my supposed medical issues. These pills look different, I said, holding them up. Where's my original bottle? Sandra rolled her eyes. They're the same thing, just a different brand. I transferred them to a better container. You're always so anxious about everything. My stomach dropped. You switched my medication, without telling me. Stop being so dramatic, she sneered. It's all in your head anyway. Your father and I have discussed this, Matías. You're too dependent on these pills. It's probably just anxiety. I stared at her in disbelief. Sandra, I have a documented heart condition. My cardiologist is making a fortune off your hypochondria, she interrupted. Trust me, Emily. A good yoga routine and some positive thinking will do more for you than these expensive medications. My hands were shaking harder now. I'd already taken 2 doses of whatever she'd given me, and my chest felt tight. Where is my original medication? I threw it out, she said casually, examining her nails. Those chemicals were just making you worse. You'll thank me later. I grabbed my phone, ready to call my doctor, but Sandra's hand shot out and snatched it away. No more enabling your paranoia. Your father agrees with me on this. Dad knows about this. I felt betrayed. My father had always supported my medical care before Sandra. He wants you to be stronger, less dependent. We both do. Her voice dripped with false concern. Now get ready for work. You're going to be late. I worked as an accountant at a large firm downtown, a job that required focus and attention to detail. But as I drove to work that morning, my mind was racing. Without my medication, I knew my condition would deteriorate quickly. The substitute pills, probably sugar or some herbal supplement, Sandra believed in Matías, wouldn't protect me from the dangerous arrhythmias I was prone to. By mid-morning, I could feel something was wrong. My heart was beating irregularly, and I felt dizzy. I tried calling my dad from my office phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Sandra must have gotten to him first with her version of events. Hey, you okay? My coworker Mike asked, noticing my pale face. You don't look so good. I'm fine, I lied, not wanting to cause a scene. But I wasn't fine. The room was starting to spin, and my chest felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. I needed help, but Sandra had my phone. My backup medication was in my apartment, but that was a 30-minute drive away. As I stood up to tell my supervisor I needed to leave, the world tilted sharply. The last thing I heard was Mike shouting my name, as the floor rushed up to meet me. Then everything went black. I later learned that my collapse triggered a flurry of activity in the office. Someone called 911, while Mike, who thankfully knew about my heart condition, told the paramedics about my medication. But when they checked my pill organizer, they found nothing but sugar pills, exactly as I'd suspected. As consciousness faded in and out during the ambulance ride, one thought kept circulating through my mind. Sandra had finally gone too far. This wasn't just controlling behavior anymore. This was attempted murder. The EMTs worked frantically to stabilize my heart rhythm as we raced toward the hospital. Through the haze of emergency medications and oxygen masks, I heard one of them say something that would change everything. Document everything. This wasn't an accident. I didn't know it then, but my collapse at work was just the beginning. Sandra's carefully crafted image of a caring stepmother was about to unravel, and the truth would shock everyone, especially my father. The steady beep of the heart monitor was the first thing I heard when I regained consciousness in the ICU. Through blurred vision, I saw my father sitting beside my bed, his face ashen and aged by worry. Sandra wasn't there, a small mercy. Emily baby, I'm so sorry. Dad's voice cracked. I had no idea. She told me she was just helping you organize your medications. I never thought I tried to speak, but the oxygen mask made it difficult. A nurse noticed I was awake and quickly entered the room, followed by Dr. Martinez, my cardiologist of 6 years. The look on his face was one of controlled fury. "Mr. Thompson," Dr. Martinez addressed my father, "we need to discuss what happened. The pills we found in Emily's organizer were simple sugar tablets. Stopping her medication abruptly could have killed her. In fact, it nearly did." Dad's face crumpled. "Sandra said they were just a different brand. She convinced me Emily was too dependent on medication, that it was mostly anxiety." He trailed off, realizing how hollow his words sounded. "Mr. Thompson," Dr. Martinez's voice was stern, "your daughter has a well-documented cardiac condition. We have years of test results, ECG readings and specialist reports. This wasn't anxiety. This was medical neglect, possibly attempted murder." The word murder hung heavy in the air. My father put his head in his hands, shoulders shaking. The nurse adjusted my IV and checked my vitals, her movements efficient but gentle. "The police want to speak with Emily when she's stronger," she said quietly. "They've already taken her medication organizer as evidence." That's when Sandra burst into the room, all tears and dramatic concern. "Oh, Emily, darling, I came as soon as I heard." She tried to rush to my bedside, but Dr. Martinez stepped between us. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave," he said firmly. "I'm her stepmother. I have every right to be here." Sandra's voice rose, her perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide her panic. "This is all a misunderstanding. I was trying to help, by replacing life-saving medication with sugar pills." The new voice came from Detective Sarah Morris, who had entered quietly during Sandra's outburst. "Mrs. Thompson, we need to have a conversation about your actions." Sandra's facade cracked. "You don't understand. She doesn't need all these chemicals. I was proving that it was just in her head. I was helping her become stronger, by nearly killing her." Detective Morris's voice was ice cold. "We found your internet search history, Mrs. Thompson. How to make sugar pills look real. What happens when heart medication is stopped? Can anxiety mimic heart problems? Care to explain those?" The color drained from Sandra's face. My father, who had been silent during this exchange, suddenly stood up. "Get out," he said to Sandra, his voice shaking with rage. "Get out of this room. Get out of my house. Get out of our lives." "David, please," Sandra pleaded, reaching for him. "I did it for us. She's been manipulating you with this illness, making you spend all that money on doctors and medication.
No.
I was proving she doesn't need it." "Security, Dr. Martinez called out, and within moments 2 hospital security guards appeared. "Please escort this woman out. She's not authorized to be here." As they led Sandra away, her carefully constructed mask finally shattered completely. "She's faking it," she screamed. "She's always been faking it. I was proving it." The detective stayed behind, tablet in hand. "Emily, when you're feeling stronger, we'll need your statement. We've already spoken with your coworkers, who witnessed your collapse, and we have the security footage from your office. Your stepmother's actions show clear premeditation." I nodded weakly, exhausted by the drama, but relieved that the truth was finally out. My father hadn't left my side, his hand gripping mine like he was afraid I'd disappear. "I'll never forgive myself," he whispered. "I should have seen through her lies, should have protected you." Dr. Martinez checked my latest readings. "Your heart rhythm is stabilizing now that we've got you back on the correct medication. But Emily, you'll need to stay here for at least a week for monitoring." "What happened to you?" "The abrupt cessation of your medication could have caused permanent damage." The severity of what Sandra had done was still sinking in. She hadn't just dismissed my illness. She had actively tried to prove it wasn't real, even if that proof might have killed me. The thought made my heart monitor spike slightly. "Rest now," the nurse said, adjusting my medication. "You're safe here." As I drifted off to sleep, I heard Detective Morris talking quietly with my father about restraining orders and criminal charges. The last thing I remembered was Dad kissing my forehead, whispering, "I'll make this right, baby. I promise." But we all knew something couldn't be made right. Trust once broken is like a shattered mirror. You can piece it back together, but you'll always see the cracks. 3 months after my near-death experience, I sat in the courtroom, watching Sandra plead guilty to charges of attempted manslaughter and medical neglect. She looked different now. Her perfect appearance had crumbled, replaced by dark circles under her eyes and unkempt hair. My father sat beside me, his hand steady on my arm, as we listened to the prosecutor present evidence. Your Honor, the prosecutor began, Mrs. Thompson's actions weren't just negligent, they were calculated. We have evidence of extensive online research about stopping heart medication, multiple purchases of materials to create fake pills, and documented attempts to isolate the victim from medical care. The judge reviewed the evidence photos, my original medication found in Sandra's trash, the sugar pills she'd crafted to look similar, and printouts of her disturbing internet searches. Each piece told the story of a woman so determined to prove me a liar, that she was willing to risk my life. Sandra's attorney tried to paint her actions as misguided concern, claiming she truly believed she was helping me overcome what she thought was an anxiety disorder. But the evidence told a different story. The defendant didn't just replace the medication. Detective Morris testified. She actively prevented the victim from seeking help when symptoms appeared. She took her phone, convinced her father it was all psychological, and continued this deception even after Miss Thompson collapsed at work. When it was Sandra's turn to speak, she turned to face me, tears streaming down her face. Emily, I never meant to hurt you. I just wanted our family to be normal, without all these medical issues complicating everything. Normal? I found myself speaking up, surprising everyone including myself. I almost died because of your twisted idea of normal. The judge cleared her throat. Mrs. Thompson, your actions show a disturbing pattern of control and disregard for human life. This court sentences you to 8 years in state prison, with mandatory psychological counseling. As they led Sandra away, I felt no satisfaction, only relief that this chapter of our lives was finally closing. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited with cameras and questions. My father shielded me from their view, hurrying me to the car, but one question caught my attention. Mr. Thompson, how did you not notice your wife tampering with your daughter's medication? Dad stopped, turned, and addressed them directly. I failed my daughter by trusting the wrong person. It's something I'll regret for the rest of my life. But now my only focus is helping Emily heal and rebuilding our relationship. The healing process wasn't just physical. Though my heart condition was back under control with proper medication, the emotional scars ran deep. Dad and I started therapy together, working through the trust issues Sandra's actions had created. He sold our family home, unable to live there after what happened. We both needed a fresh start, away from the memories of Sandra's deception. He bought a small house closer to my apartment, making sure I had spare keys and my own room there. I'm having security cameras installed, he told me one evening as we sorted through old family photos, carefully removing Sandra from our albums. And I've given copies of your medical records to both our lawyers. Nobody will ever be able to interfere with your care again. My coworkers, especially Mike who had called the ambulance, became like a second family. They set up a buddy system at work, making sure someone always knew where I was, and had access to my emergency contacts. What Sandra had done affected more than just me. It showed everyone how vulnerable we can be to those we trust. 6 months after the trial, I received a letter from Sandra's counselor in prison. Sandra wanted to apologize, to explain herself. I stared at the unopened letter for days before finally deciding to burn it. Some explanations aren't worth hearing. Today I wear a medical alert bracelet that can't be removed without breaking it, and my medications are kept in a fingerprint-locked safe. Some might call it paranoid, but nearly dying because of someone's twisted beliefs changes you. Dad and I have grown closer through this ordeal. Every Sunday we have dinner together, and he always watches me take my evening medication. Not out of doubt, but as a quiet reminder that he's there, protecting me as he should have before. You know what, Dad? I said during one of these dinners, sometimes the worst things in life show us who we can really trust. He smiled sadly, understanding the weight of those words, and sometimes they give us a chance to rebuild something stronger. As I look back on everything that happened, I realize that Sandra's attempt to prove me a faker didn't just fail. It revealed her own deception while strengthening the real bonds in my life. Sometimes the truth comes at a terrible price, but it's always worth knowing. My heart condition will always be part of my life, but it no longer defines me. What defines me is my survival, my resilience, and the knowledge that I'm surrounded by people who truly care about my well-being. And that's a medicine no one can take away.